After showing Shetland's replay the other day against Ronan, he sent me a bunch more, which I certainly do appreciate. Anytime I see an old vet getting back into the game, definitely makes me happy. And today we're going to look at an old dog with some new tricks, you might say, here. Taking out the Chaos Dwarfs for a bit of a spin. Very dwarven tactics here, mainly the positioning of these forward elements kind of away and up from the Death Shriekers. So you can see how, like, got these laborers quite far up, a couple of Ironsworn as well, some Chaos Dwarf warriors on the flanks, Blazing Beards here in the center with the Gits, a couple of Bull Centaur Tauruks, very interesting choices. Apologies about my cat there. He's very angry. Astragoth Iron Hand here, getting some shots from these Way Watchers. We've got Orion opposing here with Ariel. Power couple for Olaf the Moose here is going to be quite strong. Way Stalker and Way Watchers. With some Wild Riders with shields there, including the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. Looks like one Glade Rider mixed in. And yeah, that Waystalker will be doing some nice damage, kind of applying some pressure to Astragoth over time. But the key here is to keep these archers as much as possible away from the Death Shrieker, right? And again, that's part of this positioning. You can see how even this one laborer kind of running forward here could easily be punished by the Glade Riders and whatnot. But trying to capture that victory location, as this is conquest, of course. But this whole time as well, during all this kind of positioning and probing, Orion is getting hit pretty hard by the anti-large of the Death Shrieker. So again, that sort of zone positioning here, creating multiple layers and especially putting your most forward elements pretty far away. And the one thing here that is very dwarven is the somewhat lack of mobility. I mean, the Bull Centaurs definitely have some pretty good mobility, as does Astragoth himself, but they lack sort of the unit presence of like a multiple model unit of cavalry, which of course Chaos Dwarfs do have access to. But these Bull Centaur Tauruks will be a little bit better against single target, although again, the Great Weapon Bull Centaur is also a pretty good option for something like this. I think these guys cost quite a bit less as well. That is another factor to consider. They'll provide some anti-large here, but there's not going to be a lot of mass to stop these Wild Riders once they do decide to move in, but at the very least it's taken some time for them to maneuver up and around, and during that time, again, Orion's taken some pretty substantial damage, which will be quite key in victory here. Orion's an absolute beast, and Death Shrieker's pretty much already paid for itself just on that, so any damage that it gets now throughout the rest of the battle here is bonus, but Astragoth also taking some nasty volleys there from the Way Watchers as the Wild Riders close on the Death Shrieker rockets here. Say rockets. It's one rocket launcher, to be honest, on a little train car. Very neat. And out here, yeah, some of these laborers just again getting peppered by the arrows. I guess not really too much. Mostly fought in melee, but maybe wasting some ammunition there, which is quite cost effective of them. But Wild Riders, even, you know, interrupted as they are, getting some stuff thrown at them, still able to rout off that Death Shrieker relatively easily, with the other Wild Riders following up as well, getting ready for a little rear charge in here into the Orc Laborers. They can support each other quite well, and with this one unit getting routed off, it should hopefully be able to finish off that Death Shrieker. But the other unit of Wild Riders here just kind of hanging back in tactical reserve, covering these Way Watchers in case anything were to come advance against them. But yeah, Wood Elves going to have to take this a little bit unorthodox from here. I mean, obviously their build didn't have any kind of traditional infantry, so definitely going to be looking for some different ways of having success here. But a nice little explosion there will do some AoE damage. That Awakening of the Wood effect also giving some speed slowing. Wood Elves definitely have a lot of ammunition to try and deal some damage to some high value targets still. Finishing off Astragoth would definitely be a long way to go. He takes a few more volleys there. Yeah, they do actually manage to recover the Death Shrieker, but it's going to take an Arrows of Kurnos at long range. The Waystalker also has the range to defeat it. Even with kind of the zone action happening, well, it still is a little bit far away for its standard bow attack. Has to come forward some. But again, as much as possible, Shetland here just fighting forward from his artillery. It's a concept I talked about quite a bit in the past, but if you're new to the channel, you might not have heard those videos. But yeah, it's definitely a concept you need to learn if you want to use artillery factions effectively. My cat is very upset right now, if you couldn't tell. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background, but anyway, yeah, Sneaky Gets also through their throwing daggers at something, I'm not really sure there. Probably some cavalry. The Bull Centaurs also coming back as well, trying to salvage what's left. of these single entities here between the Deathshrieker and Astrogoth, both getting quite low. On the flip side, the Wood Elven single entities are doing just fine, kind of grinding through on the objective here and holding the point quite effectively. Ryan taking so much damage early on, it's going to be tough for him, but especially just grinding against kind of defensive infantry, that Cloak of Isha will allow him to survive almost indefinitely as it pertains to the course of the battle. So yeah, we see again Bull Centaurs being used to good effect here, unifying with Astrogoth to be all together, try and work as one. The Way Watchers getting screened once again here by various elements of infantry. They're actually kind of getting towards the edge of the map, so might actually be caught by laborers, which would be super cost effective for the Gobos, but looks like the Wild Hunters of Kurnos going to come all the way across the field, absolutely sprinting for their lives to try and intercept there, and that rear charge will be enough to probably route the laborers just straight off the side of the map here. But the Way Watchers still haven't really been able to get set and use up the rest of their ammunition, of which they do have quite a bit still. And Shetland now kind of maneuvering to cut off the advance here, taking a nice pursuit angle with these forward elements to kind of close the door here and then maybe be able to follow up behind with the Bull Centaurs. Astrogoth may not want to get close given his low HP status, but yeah, meanwhile over here the Wood Elves single entities also, again, just kind of grinding, using their AoE damage to best effect, trying to cut through these Ironsworn. A lot of resources for them to have to fight through here, so we'll see if they can. The Ironsworn in particular are going to be quite scary. Their magic damage allows them to cut through the physical resistance that Ariel and Orion are going to be relying on here. Cloak of Isha, I think, actually gives ward save, but even still, 20% physical resistance is definitely pretty impactful when you're getting hit by kind of low weapon, I guess, line unit weapon attacks. Not really low weapon strength per se. They actually have pretty solid weapon strength for defensive units, but anyway, you see the Wild Hunters here taking some nice volleys. It looks like the grenades there from the Blazing Beards doing some solid work as they contact. And yeah, Bull Centaurs again, just kind of staying in a covering position here. Got to be a little bit careful though. Those Way Watchers could snipe Astrogoth here quite easily. One unit of Ironsworn is basically untouched and has all their grenades as well, so that might also be a factor here in the late game. But let's get close on the Wood Elves single entities to keep Astrogoth and the rest in the background. And I see as things develop here, we'll pop it into fast forward just briefly. You can see a little bit of Soul Stealer action happening. That's going to heal Ariel and allow for some terror routes here potentially. And Ironsworn are hanging on, and Orion especially fighting surrounded by them without any support. It's tough. Ariel gets on the objective. She's going to throw a little, wow, weakened. What is that even? I don't think I've ever actually personally used that Dart of Doom. Forgot that it did anything, but it does reduce weapon strength, which is decent, actually, especially if you had something to stack poison with that. Significantly nerf the weapon strength of those Ironsworn. But the Bull Centaur is actually going to go 2v1 here, I guess 2v2. But with the support of the Ironsworn, it gives them a pretty fair advantage here, even though they're definitely not as good at combatants as Orion by any means. Tactically, in a situation like this where he's already so weakened and you just need a little bit of burst to overcome his last defense, we're going to get in there and mix it up. Meanwhile, in the back, yeah, Astrogoth just wisely kind of avoids even getting close to the Way Watchers, continuing to send his shielded, bearded infantry follow up and just absorb that missile fire with their shields. So we'll keep in close. Haven't really got too many cinematic shots this battle. We've kind of been all over the field, which I love, certainly. But, yeah, you see Ariel falls there, actually, first, before Orion even falls. I feel like Orion should get some kind of massive rage buff when he's fighting with Ariel. Probably a little bit too complicated to implement for multiplayer. One Bull Centaur actually does get routed. The other one takes a big hit there, but actually does manage to fell Orion. And it's just the Way Stalker left at this point. Not looking great for Wood Elven leadership. Of course, Way Watchers do have quite a bit of ammunition left as well. So let's fast forward as they get in close. Draw back their bowstrings and let fly their last few volleys here. A little charge from the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. So Wood Elves definitely not out of this yet. But here comes this thick, very healthy remaining unit of Infernal Ironsworn. Going to take some volleys there. Actually returns a little bit of fire and gets some contact with some grenades on a unit that still has, what, they got like 4 kills there. That's something. Astrogoth also using his long-range missile attack and just staying far, far away as possible from those Way Watchers. Again, we talked about sort of zoning priority targets here, screening effectively with the shielded infantry now at this point. But just keeping it away from Astrogoth himself. Gets another contact there, and that'll be army losses. So, really nice game, honestly, back and forth. Olaf definitely fought his best there, and really kind of unconventional, very Wood Elven build, I have to say. And almost ended up working out, but Shetland just barely pulling out the win. I have to say, the Centaur's not usually particularly clutch unit, not one that I typically take super often, but here, tactically, just enough to be able to finish off these single entities for the Wood Elves, especially with the assistance of those Ironsworn and the rocket launcher, of course, in the early phase of the battle, being absolutely critical to the success of that engagement as well, weakening Orion significantly. And yeah, the Chaos Dwarf Infantry also trades decently cost-effective. I mean, you'd expect that out of the Ironsworn for the most part. One basically just survives, and that's enough. Blazing Beards get some good value. This one pays for itself, so nice to see overall. Laborers are also here and reasonably cost-effective. 180 value on laborers, definitely not bad at all, but a nice back-and-forth battle, honestly. Good sort of tactical elements from both sides here, but definitely being able to protect that artillery just long enough for it to make a very decisive impact on the battle. Definitely proved effective, so hopefully you enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.